Welcome friends. Today we are going to start with a new topic in athletics, that is shot put. So what is shot put? Shot put is an athletic sport where people try to put a heavy weighted ball as far as they can. They are not allowed to throw it, but instead they push the ball out into the air. They put the ball by holding it at their neck and pushing it through the air. The shot put has been the part of Olympics since 1896. The weight of the ball can vary from 6 to 16 pounds, that is 2.76 to 7.26 kg, depending on the level age and gender of the participants. The object of the sport is to throw it as far as possible. The shot put is similar to the javelin. It is an official Olympic event and can be seen at the Olympic Games. The athlete cannot wear gloves when they are participating. If wearing gloves, the athlete will be disqualified. The shot put event was first seen in the Middle Ages when they would throw cannonballs at their enemies. It is an outdoor event and cannot be played inside. It is a track and field event. The shot put is a track and field event involving throwing, putting, throwing in a pushing motion, a heavy spherical object, the shot, as far as possible. The shot put competition for men has been a part of modern Olympics since their arrival in 1896, and women competition began in 1948. The shot put has been an Olympic event since first modern Olympics in 1896 in Rome. It's a sport that requires techniques as well as strength, and changes in throwing style have since led to significant gains in the power of the thrower and the distances achieved. Now let us have a look on the origin of it. Scottish Highland Games historians believe shot put originated from the ancient Celtic tradition of putting the stone, which according to Scottish folklore was used by clan chieftains to help them identify their strongest men for battle purposes. The earliest documented evidence of the tradition can be found in an Irish book titled The Book of Leinster, which was written in the 12th century and described the events of the Tailteann Games held in County Meath. One of the events included in stone throwing. But how much further back is the history? The tradition stretches remains unproven. History. Homer mentions competitions of rock throwing by soldiers during the siege of Troy, but there is no record of any dead weights being thrown in Greek competitions. The first evidence for stone or weight throwing events were in the Scottish Highland and date back to approximately the 1st century. In the 16th century, King Henry VIII was noted for his prowess in court competitions of weight and hammer throwing. The first event resembling the modern shot put likely occurred in the Middle Ages, when soldiers held competitions in which they hurled cannonballs. Shot put competitions were first recorded in early 19th century. Scotland and were a part of British Amateur Championship beginning in 1866. Competitors take their throw from inside a market circle 2.13 meters, that is 7 feet in diameter, with the stop board around 10 centimeters, that is 3.9 inch high at the front of the circle. The distance thrown is measured from inside of the circumference of the circle to the nearest mark made in the ground by following the shot, with distances rounded down to the nearest centimeter under IAAF and WMA rules. Rules of shot put. Early shot put events were judged on the distance the stone or shot could be thrown from behind a raised wooden board, following a short run-up of no more than 7 feet. By early 1890s, the run-up had been replaced by a 7-foot diameter circle marked on the ground with the raised board, now shaped to follow the front edge of the circle. In both cases, stepping over the board meant the throw would be disallowed. An article was published in 1892 in the American magazine. Outing describes the events of the Caledonian Games and discusses the then prevailing rule of the standing throw from within a circle. The main reason for the change from the run-up to the circle was to increase the accuracy of the measurement by being able to measure the exact distance from where the shot landed straight back to the closest point on the edge of the circle. Next is legal throws. The following rules, indoor and outdoor, are adhered to for a legal throw. Upon calling the athlete's name, they have 60 seconds to commence the throwing motion, otherwise they are banned from the game. The athlete may not wear gloves. IAAF rules permit the tapping of individual fingers. The athlete must rest the shot close to the neck and keep it tight to the neck throughout the motion. The shot must be released above the height of shoulder using only one hand. The athlete may touch the inside surface of the circle or the toe board, but must not touch the top or outside of the circle or toe board or the ground beyond the circle. Limbs may, however, extend over the lines of the circle in the air. The shot must land in the legal sector 34.92 of the throwing area. The athlete must leave the throwing circle from the back. The athlete may enter the throwing circle at the location of their choice. Foul throws. Foul throws occur when an athlete does not pause within the circle before beginning the throwing motion, does not complete the throwing movement within 60 seconds of having their name called, allows the shot to drop below his shoulder or outside the vertical plane of his shoulder during the put. At any time, if the shot loses contact with the neck, then it is technically an illegal throw. During the throwing motion, touches with any part of the body includes shoes, the top or ends of the toe board, the toe of the iron ring, anywhere outside the circle, throws a shot which either falls outside the throwing sector or touches the sector line on the initial impact, leaves the circle before the shot has landed. does not leave from the rear half of the circle. Regulation misconceptions. The following are either obsolete or non-existent but commonly believed rules within professional competition. The athlete must enter the circle from the back. None of the rule books contains such a clause. The athlete entering the circle, then exiting and re-entering it prior to starting the throw results in a foul. Loose clothing, shoelaces or long hair touching outside the circle during the throw, or an athlete bringing a towel into the circle and then throwing it out prior to put results in a foul. Next is style. Before 1951, the main movements involved in the shot put were to stand and throw from a crouched starting position. The winner of the shot put Olympic gold medal in 1896 was Bob Garrett of the USA with a throw of 11.22 m. The current men's shot put world record holder is Randy Barnes of the USA, who had an outdoor throw of 23.12 m. His success as a thrower is attributed to the rotational style of throwing known as the spin, which was first introduced in 1976 by American shot putter Brian Oldfield. The spin developed from a throwing style known as the glide. The glide was pioneered by American Perry O'Brien in 1951 and is now considered a major turning point in the history of the sport, as it introduced the technique of facing away from the direction of the throw at the beginning of the movement. A key factor in all shot put styles is that the shot must be put as opposed to thrown. This is achieved by keeping the ball in close proximity to the chin in all the movements prior to its release. Putting styles. Two putting styles are in current general use by shot put competitors, the glide and the spin. With all putting styles, the goal is to release the shot with maximum forward velocity at an angle of approximately 40 degrees. Glide. The origin of the glide dates to 1951 when Perry O'Brien from the United States invented a technique that involved the putter facing backwards, rotating 180 degrees across the circle and tossing the shot. With this technique, a right hand thrower would begin facing the rear of the circle and then kick to the front with his left leg while pushing off forcefully with the right. As the thrower crosses the circle, the hips twist towards the front. The left arm is swung out, then pulled back tight, followed by the shoulders, and they then strike in a putting motion with their right arm. The key is to move quickly across the circle with as little air under the feet as possible. Hence, it is named glide. Next is spin. In 1972, Alexander Barshakov set his first USSR record using a new putting style, the spin, invented by his coach Viktor Alexeyev. The spin involves rotating like a discus thrower and using rotational momentum for power. In 1976, Barry Shinkov went on to set a world record of 22.00 meters, that is 72.18 feet, with his spin style and was the first shot putter to cross the 22-meter mark. With this technique, a high right-hand thrower faces the rear and begins to spin on the ball of left foot. The thrower comes around and faces the front of the circle and drives the right foot into the middle of the circle. Finally, the thrower reaches for the front of the circle with the left foot, twisting the hips and shoulders like in the glide, and puts the shot. When the athlete executes the spin, the upper body is twisted hard to the right. So, the imaginary lines created by the shoulders and hips are no longer parallel. This action builds up torque and stretches the muscles, creating an involuntary elasticity in the muscles, providing extra power and momentum. When the athlete prepares to release, the left foot is firmly planted, causing the momentum and energy generated to be conserved, pushing the shot in an upward and outward direction. Another purpose of the spin is to build up a high rotational speed by swinging the right leg initially, then to bring all the limbs in the tightly similar to a figure skater, bringing in their arms while spinning to increase their speed. Once the fast speed is achieved, the shot is released, transferring the energy into the shot put. Now, the usage. Currently, most top male shot putters use the spin. However, the glide remains popular since the technique leads to greater consistency compared to the rotational technique. Almost all throwers start by using the glide. Tomasz Majewski notes that although most athletes use the spin and some other top shot putters achieve success using this classic method. For example, he became first to defend the Olympic title in 56 years. The world record by a male putter of 23.120 m, that is 75 feet 10.236 inch, by Randy Barnes was completed with the spin technique. Measuring which technique can provide the most potential is difficult, as many of the best throws recorded with each technique have been completed by athletes under doping suspicions or with a record of drug violations. The decision to glide or spin may need to be decided on an individual basis, determined by the thrower's size and power. Short throwers may benefit from the spin and taller throwers may benefit from the glide. But many throwers do not follow this guideline. Now, let us have a look on the types of shot. The shot put ball is made of different kind of material depending on its intended use. Material used include sand, iron, cast iron, solid steel, stainless steel, brass, and synthetic materials like polyvinyl. Some metals are more dense than others, making the size of the shot vary. For example, indoor shots are larger than outdoor shots. So, different material are used to make them. There are various size and weight standards for the implement that depend on the age and gender of the competitors as well as the national customs of the governing body. Let us have a look on the equipment. The shot put is a sport with little equipment involved, but that means The equipment that is used is even more important. Shorts come in several sizes and material for each weight, which includes turned steel, stainless steel, brass, iron and turned iron. The most popular short are the turned iron and turned steel because they are not too smooth and have the best grip. The size of the short has a limit on the circumference for each weight, and many throwers tend to get the largest shot possible because the smaller shot seems to roll off the hand and fingers more in the delivery phase of the throw. The next piece of equipment to cover is footwear. All the major footwear companies make a short put shoe designed for rotation. They usually have a smooth, hard outsole for fast spinning and a high arc to keep the thrower on the toes more. The most popular spin shoe today is the Nike Zoom Rotational that is worn by many of the elite throwers. The Nike shoes have the fastest outsole but are the stiffest of the shoes. The Adidas short put shoes has a softer outside and conforms to the foot better for a more snug fit. Reebok, New Balance, Mizuno and Essex all make a short put shoes but are less popular because their lack of sponsorship